Gold Trails and Ghost Towns. Share the adventures of our early pioneers as we explore the development of the Pacific Northwest and beyond. With your host, Mike Roberts, and historian Bill Barlee.
Welcome to Gold Trails and Ghost Towns. Mike Roberts and Bill Barlee. And Bill is usually our storyteller and historian. Today he's also our artifaction. What do you call the person who looks after artifacts?
Well, an appraiser.
Archivist.
An appraiser, actually. Archivist looks after paper ephemera. So really an appraiser, I guess.
Now, the other side of this is that artifacts which were common to everybody just 10 years ago are becoming as rare a commodity as you can find today.
Yeah, 10 years, maybe a little longer than that, Mike. We used to be able to pick up a siphon, like you're holding right now, for $5.
$5?
Yeah, that siphon today, that's a rare one, would be well over $500. Now, not all siphons are. Some are still selling for $50 and $60 and $40. But the very rare ones, from the mining towns and from the ghost towns, that would be Phoenix, Sandon, Greenwood Grand Forks, that's from Greenwood Grand Forks, Headley City, believe it or not. These are running up into the hundreds and hundreds of dollars, depending upon condition. That's very, very fine condition.
It is. It's heavy because, of course, it had to support a pressurized volume in it.
That's
it's got the spigot on the top.
Yeah, and a lot of history involved. That's from the Lion Brewing Company that started out in Rossland, Mike, and they had an outlet in Greenwood as well. So they
nice
had
piece of work.
Yeah.
Now you went on bottle digs a lot. I know on Leechtown on Vancouver Island, that was a very popular place. You went and found the garbage dumps of the old camps.
Sure.
I guess they pretty much are cleaned out in the past 25
years.
Yeah,
with the exception of some of the smaller dumps, Mike. There are still some small dumps here and there in nondescript camps or camps that are not well known. And essentially, a lot of people should be much more careful. They should document exactly to get the provenance of the article, where this was located, how deep, and so on. And generally speaking, some of the material coming out of some of those old camps is really museum stuff, and people should bear that in mind.
What do you mean? The museum doesn't own it, but you should
No,
contemplate it as if this has got greater importance than just sort of spending some time on a garage shelf.
That's right, and there isn't any law covering that. Perhaps there should be, and but certainly some of the old towns that have been notorious in history, such as Sandon, are fairly well protected. We have a law covering that now. So, but bottle diggers, they dig virtually anywhere.
Yeah. Okay. We've got a lot of the breakable material. Of course, is so important to the collector.
Yeah.
Where did you get some of this material, and what is its value to our understanding?
Well, I picked that up years ago. USSC, which is Union Steamship Company, and that was one of the most famous of the old lines on the Inside Passage. And getting it to be very rare, difficult to get the Union Steamship stuff, and yet there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pieces, and they're getting very, very tough to get right now.
You were commentating on the flag of the Union Steamship line, and that was a unique thing, but invisible.
And also the BYN I was contemplating on.
Now, this one, for example, is the Hotel Similkameen. What is that?
Very, very rare. Yeah, that's the Hotel Similkameen in Headley. There are about 3 of these that we know of in perfect condition. The Parsons collection has one, I have one, and there's one other floating somewhere. That would be, if you look at it, you say that's a $5 piece. It's probably, I wouldn't take $200 for it. I wouldn't sell it.
Now, some of these pieces are now being replicated.
Yes,
I don't know, counterfeited, it may be the
replicated.
cruel way of...
No, replicated, because it's the actual company, and this is the Quilchena Hotel, still in business. This is an original plate. There's a slight difference in color and just fractional difference between an original plate and the one they have at the hotel, which is open today up in that Nicola country.
Now, how do you know? I mean, on the back, do they even represent this? It says vitrified S.W. Dean. I mean, is that the nature? Do you look for some little thing like that?
Yeah, you look for color mostly, and I don't think it's the same maker. I think it's a different maker, although I didn't check their plates.
I'm getting older. I have to take my glasses off to see some of these places. And, of course, Canadian Pacific China. Everybody says when you took the Canadian Pacific, you ate off China with silverware. I mean, it was the
went in style.
Gourmet through the wilderness.
And these were very, very common. 15 years ago, 20 years ago, we could pick them up for $2 each. Now they're getting extremely difficult to find, especially with the CPR logo on them.
I can't imagine how many of those were broken, as part of target practice, as just thrown out by the barrel load.
Sure.
Well, I guess that's how they became so valuable, right?
Yeah, they just don't survive, and there are select collectors who go all over the province looking for specific pieces.
Some of the early photographs actually, oh, sorry, I take this away. Some of the early photographs turned into postcards.
Sure.
And this is one of those.
Yeah.
Because then it was sent off to whoever it needed to.
Yeah.
Who did the writing on the front of it?
Well, that would be the original photographer. That'd be Spalding in that area. That's Fernie.
That was a wreck
yeah.
of a locomotive that we talked about on another occasion.
Yeah, that's a different photo, of course.
Okay. And let's take that one away. And here we've got Sandon, BC.
Yeah, that's 1901 or later, probably around 1915, I think, in Sandon. And that's an old famous that's the original Silver City of. So any of these postcards are quite valuable. You know, I mean, they're not 25-cent cards. They run up, some of the postcards run up to $100 each, which is amazing. Most of them aren't. Most of them are $1 and $2.
And this one here has been hand tinted.
That's right.
That makes it even more valuable?
That's right. That was about 1915, but probably the original photograph had been taken about 1900. That's a mule team coming out of Goldfield, Nevada. So that's a famous old mining town. That's an American one, and there's a stamp on the back.
Now, how important is the message that was on the back? This was sent to Mrs. Larson in Rossland.
That's right.
And it's typical of any little note that's on the back of a postcard. It doesn't say much of importance, but is it of importance?
Yeah, because I knew the Larson family. I'm just teasing.
I guess it would be.
Yeah.
And then this one here, this is a beauty.
Yeah, that's a beauty. That's Chief Joseph's camp, the Nez Perce, in just in Espelum, Washington, which is in that Colville country, and that's very, very nice. That's just after the turn of the century.
And again, these are fragile. They are they would deteriorate.
Right.
And
I should mention that you should give copies of those cards, and maybe with some restrictions on it, to the archives. You know, archives of British Columbia. Not much doubt about it.
You should give the copies of them, because really the substance is the fact that they're on this little cardboard sheet.
That. Yeah, I know.
Okay, that's pretty good. They're money too. Now this is a really neat. Now we just sort of began talking about who are these people on this bill, and who do you suppose they might be?
Well, you came up with it, Mike. You said it might be Lord and Lady Aberdeen, Governor General of Canada, and indeed it might be. That's 1898, so the time is about right. That's one of the large Canadian bills at the time, and they're getting very difficult to get to.
Because once again, they're fragile. I mean, even though they're made of very good paper and were designed to withstand a lot, and then the ones that are even more delicate.
Yeah, they are.
What are these called? You call them something.
Those are fractional notes, actually. In Canada, they would be called shin plasters. They're 25-cent shin plasters in Canada and so on. But these are fractional notes out of the United States, right back to the 1860s. So these would be used during the gold rush era and the silver camps of the West and so on.
Why
Difficult to get.
Why would they use? Because, I mean, they'd obviously...
Easier to carry, Mike.
I suppose. I mean, but, I mean, they would deteriorate rapidly.
Yeah,
I mean,
you have to be careful.
25-cent notes, look at that. But I remember the Canadian shin plasters, but Americans had fractional notes as well.
Yeah.
Look at that, and they're very delicate as well.
Yes, they are indeed.
Okay, going to take a break because we want to change gears a little bit and take a look at some other artifacts. We'll do that right after we take this commercial message as we look at artifacts and collectibles today on Gold Trails. Welcome back to Gold Trails and Ghost Towns, taking a look at artifacts and collectibles today. And one of the things I'm most fascinated by is maps. And there, right in the center of this map, is Stanley. Who drew this map, Bill?
Well, one of the finest cartographers in British Columbia, no doubt about it. Dominion cartographer, a guy called Amos Bowman, published the map in 1886, Mike, and the detail is marvelous.
It is. I mean, he says there's Chinatown is here, the shafts are here, there's schists in this location, there's cliffs, schists.
Yes.
And what did he say? Dips northeasterly. It tells everything you need to know about the area, and that is Lightning Creek.
That's Lightning Creek.
Reasonably important creek in the annals of British Columbia history.
Second most important in the Caribou Country next to Williams Creek, Mike. And that comes from a series of maps published by Amos Bowman and the Dominion government, which were available at one time for something like 10 cents or something. It was ridiculous.
And there is the package that you would get all of these maps in.
Yeah, you used to be able to pick this package up, and I think the price is on there, Mike. No, it isn't on there, but it seems to me it might have been 10 cents a map. Yes, 10 cents each, that's what it is. And now that map, the better maps would cost you 100 to 150, and the poorer ones would cost you 40 or 50. So the whole series of about 9 or 10 maps there is worth anywhere over $500 to $1,000.
And you know, you could put those to pretty good use today if you wanted to do a little reconnoitering in the same country.
A lot of people have. That's very true. They've been using these. Some of the people who know that caribou country have used the Amos Bowman maps for years.
Now, something as simple as this, again, I can't help but think of all of these that have succumbed to rocks from children and target practice.
Very true.
But this is a, what, a 1 gallon jug or something like that?
Yeah, I think that's a full gallon. And that would be taken, a lot of those were taken straight to the dump in Greenwood. That comes out of Greenwood. It's McCreath, and they're
right.
very, very rare. I picked that up years ago. I bought it off an old-timer in Greenwood. And the price of those has gone out of sight as well. Most of this stuff has gone up dramatically as people become more interested in our history.
Yeah.
You know, it's part of the Old West.
Never let it get out of your hands. Old
Yeah.
stone crocks are nice things to keep
Oh, sure
around,
they are.
too. Now, some of them are not worth very much. Well, all of them are nice to have around.
Oh,
Keep
sure.
anything like that around.
Oh, sure.
Now, this, I mean, these are called what? Woolies?
Woolies, yeah. There are 3 types of shaps. There's batwing, and there's stovepipe, and there's woolies. This is for the winter shaps, you know.
And probably
Yeah.
this is wool,
Yeah.
long natural wool. Maybe
Yeah, I think so.
somebody could surmise it might be buffalo, but
Yeah,
they
well,
weren't
it's
called
curly,
woolies
but
for a
no,
reason.
they weren't. They were called woolies for a definite reason. That's Great Western Saddle Company, I think. Probably out of Calgary, Alberta. And it depends. The maker's mark is very important on these. I have some from the States, they're transition stuff, and very, very valuable. And
Great
so-
West Saddlery Company,
Yeah, it
horseshoe brand,
Yeah.
and 324. Do you know what 324
No, I'm not
is?
sure, but I think that's out of Calgary, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And as I say, I have all 3 types of shaps, and they're all fascinating. And, you know...
And you pronounce them shaps.
Yeah.
They're not pronounced chaps.
Well, it depends. Yeah, I pronounce it either way. Either way is acceptable. And they're tough to get, too, Mike. They're $500 to $1,000 each now.
Somewhere along the line, you will find cups. I mean, these cups, which were so important, this is Mr. Sylvester's cup,
Yeah.
and it was awarded for what? Do you happen to remember?
Well, it's actually awarded for football contests in Vancouver Island and the various collieries. A lot of the mine workers came from various counties in England. They'd played football as a kid. So the owner, who was actually with Granby, he decided he would name the cup after himself rather than Granby. That should be the Granby Cup. And that's sterling silver, Mike. The mark's on that somewhere.
And not like today, which they might be pewter or worse,
Yeah,
plastic.
you won't get many sterling silver cups anymore.
That would be a treasure.
Yeah.
And this had to come from somebody's sort of time-honored collection that somehow came on the market when the estate had to be passed around.
That's right. I paid silver weight for it, a little more than that, actually. But it's very important. Anything with an inscription on it, Mike, adds to the value of it. There's no doubt about it. As far as the museums are concerned, extremely important.
I like silverware. You know, silver's an underappreciated
is.
metal, don't you
Sure
think?
it is.
Now, we've got here spoons, and everybody I know has got a spoon collection of one kind or another.
Yeah.
But these are the real McCoy spoons. This looks like the House of Parliament down in Victoria.
Yeah,
that
it may be. I'm
yeah.
not sure.
Okay, that baby's there. And a lot
That's a
of these
beauty.
this one says Winnipeg on it.
Yeah.
It's actually engraved in here.
Yeah.
That must have been kind of tough engraving.
Yeah, and with a tiny little train at the top, Mike.
Oh,
So
on-
that's
on-
1880s stuff. That's a very, very nice spoon.
Isn't that
And they range in value from $15 in their sterling silver to $100-odd. Depends where they come from.
And is there any way of telling what era spoon you're looking at? I mean, is there somewhere on here which is where the date is stamped and you can actually believe it?
You usually go by the crowns, the King's crown, Edward VII's crown, George V's crown. Sometimes there's a date on the back and so on.
This little item really attracts my attention
Yeah.
because these are gold coins.
$2.50 gold pieces, U.S. gold pieces. That came out of the Yukon, of course. And typical of the jewelry made with gold, because gold was a pretty common commodity, believe it or not, in the Yukon in the early years. So
Isn't that amazing? We called
Yeah.
it a common commodity.
yeah, at that time it was, Mike.
What would $2.50 gold coins, what would that be worth today?
Well, it damages the value of the gold coins
damage?
to a
Is that what you said?
numismatist. Yes, it does. Because the value is depreciated when you have it stuck on by solder to some other piece of jewelry.
Do you have the provenance of that particular piece? Do you know
No,
who
just
that
know it
person
came
was?
out of Dawson City.
You know that.
Yeah.
Now, this one's got to be traceable. This is an actual constable's badge.
Yeah.
And you must be able to find out whose 216 was.
No, it'd be very, very difficult to trace that. You'd have to have all the lawman's books from all over British Columbia. And that's special police, so that'd be for a riot or something else, or for an unusual occurrence, perhaps a posse or something.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Well, gee, that's too bad, because this could have a a really interesting providence.
Could have a great history. Maybe in one of the posse members who went after Bill Miner, who knows?
Yeah, he's got me going now, doesn't he? Now, I mean, any kind of silverware, too.
Yeah.
Is this CPR?
That's CPR.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very,
typical.
very nice. This,
Yeah.
this, at one time, I would imagine, housed a cream and sugar set. Is that right?
I don't think so. I think that was bread, but I'm guessing.
Is
yeah.
that right?
Okay, yeah.
And look at it's got, I'm sorry to reflect that, but you can see the
Yeah, it's
CPR
great.
right in the middle.
Sure.
And of course, on the back side of it, you've got the
Yeah.
silversmith's marks.
Yeah, and I've got my own tag on that as well. And this is rather interesting because, you know, CPR stuff is extremely collectible now, Mike. I mean, there was so much CPR stuff, people thought it'd never be worth anything. Well, now everybody's collecting CPR stuff. So it's getting very valuable.
And what does the CPR have to say about this?
Well, the CPR doesn't mind. They sold a lot of their stuff.
They did.
Oh, yeah.
Because I always get the feeling that CPR wouldn't have let this out of their grasp. It had to be purloined at some time. And the statute of limitations on this is passed.
Oh, yeah, pretty well, yeah.
That's the closest to a confession I've ever heard in my life. Now look at this little baby. You said, what is this? And I looked all over for some place to cut it. Now what is it?
Well, actually, it's a cigar cutter. Now, you know, I don't know exactly how it works. I picked it up in Victoria. It came out of the old Chinatown section in Victoria. And it does,
it's a cigarette
snips.
cutter.
No, it snips cigars. It says right on the front, it says cigar, number 144, cigar.
So maybe
Yeah.
those very thin
Yeah,
little cigars, you stick
Yeah.
them in there and then
well, I guess so.
they'll snip two at a time, I
Yeah,
guess.
I think so.
Now, again, this is the kind of thing which would be neat to have, I suppose, but
Yeah.
easily counterfeited or replicated.
Yeah, that's right. You have to be very careful of all your iron stuff. This is the patent mark is on that, 1891, I think, so it's over 100 years old. And any of the iron stuff, you have to be extremely careful because they're starting to make copies or replicas of them.
And brass and other things. Now, you brought a spittoon in here that, you know, it looked to me more like Fido's dish, and I thought Fido would be one respectable dog with
Yeah,
a
he would.
brass dish and a ceramic inside.
It almost looks like ceramic. It isn't really. It's kind of a painted over ceramic.
Yeah.
And this is brass. It's really quite fancy. Ordinarily, the saloons at least the spittoons we've used on or cuspidors we've used on the program are the
They're
high
tall,
spittoon.
yeah.
Most of them are, some of them smaller, but not like this. This is for a Cosmopolitan hotel in Vancouver, Victoria. Maybe Rosslyn, maybe Nelson.
I mean,
Yeah.
it does look
This
like
came out of
the dog's
Victoria.
dish. Is that right?
Yeah.
And what would one of those cost these days? Would you
Oh,
just look at that and say,
Yeah, probably.
$2.50?
No, $2.50.
$250.
No, it wouldn't be that much. For the higher ones, it would be more. This would be around $75 probably now, Mike.
If you could find such a thing.
If you could find it.
And
yeah.
even better to find the provenance, the
And they're
background.
also making replica spittoons, so be very careful.
That very careful. What you're really
Yeah.
saying is
Well, you
you
have to look
need
for
to
the-
contact somebody who has a lot of experience in
That's
these
right,
things.
and there should be some kick marks on it. Now, they're doing that, too, so you have to be careful, okay?
Listen, you just send them out on the factory floor and say, kick these around for a while.
That's right.
Listen, I got to get kids' toys in here. These
Yeah.
are always lovely, and this
Yeah,
is...
that's very nice.
Now, I can't imagine this is actually a kid's toy. It's made with such care and such
Yeah, it is.
detail.
But it is a kid's toy.
It is?
That would run around now $150. Again, you have to be careful. This is not a replica. This is an original. But the replicas usually you can tell when you compare them with an original, but you have to have the original. So this is brass, and of course that is iron, and
Cast
it's really
iron.
quite well done. It's Silverware Canada, of course.
And it is just
Oh,
a
yeah.
little beauty. When
Yeah,
you
it
take a
is a
look
little
at it, you
beauty.
think it's even got a little firing hole. What do you
Yeah,
call it, a wick
yeah,
hole, or what is
yeah.
that? Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, going to take another break, but we're going to come back in a second and talk about, I guess, the moment you discovered to your own satisfaction that gold trails, ghost towns were spectacular, ghostly, wonderful
That's right.
places to
That
be.
was a touch hole, by the way.
Touch hole. Thank you
Okay.
very much. Do that right after this break. Don't go away. Welcome back to Gold Trails and Ghost Towns. Wearing a pair of antique glasses. They got nice little lenses in them, a nice little nose bit there, and really they've got extendable wings on the arms.
Yeah.
Look at how they slide up
Yeah,
and
they have.
down.
And they're also sterling silver, Mike.
Yeah.
So this would come from quite a wealthy business person, not much doubt about that at all. Probably 1890 stuff.
Very nice indeed. But you know, the thing is, buying these things wouldn't be the same to me as finding these things on site.
Yeah.
You remember the ghost towns when they were brand new, so to speak.
Yeah, that's the advantage of being, you know, in your 60s, Mike. And I'd say about 1938, 39, I guess. I was 7 years old, and I was walking through a place called OK Mountain down on that very rich gold belt beyond the Red Mountain area in Rossland, the famous Leroy. And about four or five of us were in this little gang, and we came across an old miner's cabin we had never seen before, and the door was open. So at 7 or 8 years old, we wandered in. Everything was still there. The table was set. All the dishes were there. There was a rifle there. There was the bed. It was all covered with dust. It was amazing.
It had been like that for about how many years?
I would think it had been like that for 15 or 20 years.
And these places were abandoned.
Sure.
And suddenly there you are with the world sitting there as it had been 15 to 20 years ago.
Same thing in Phoenix. I mean, I wandered through Phoenix when I was a kid, and we'd wander up the boardwalks, and the boardwalks were still there. They were crumbling, but most of the buildings were there, you see, in the 30s. And we'd look inside the windows of these huge stores that were still standing in Phoenix, because they'd walked right away from it, and everything was still there. The pitcher and basin sets and the 10-gallon hats and all the cutlery and the roll-top desk, you name it. They walked away from it, Mike, and it was all covered in dust and cobwebs hanging down. It was remarkable, an image I'll never forget.
Now, so often, like when you go to Barkerville, it has been, I guess, reconditioned to the state it might have been in 1865.
That's right.
Now, there are still some ghost towns around. I was at Quinnell Forks.
Yeah.
Nothing has been done to renovate or rejuvenate the buildings. They're just in their tumble-down state.
Actually, we're doing that now. We're starting to very carefully restore some of those buildings in Quinnell Forks, Mike.
Sandon is another community?
Sandon's the same thing we're doing there.
Now, and you don't want it to look like it did in its heyday. I mean, do you want it to look like the ghost town when you walk onto it?
Yeah, I want the mood and the ambience of an original town. And certainly that applies in Sandon, and it applies in Quinnell Forks, and to a degree in Atlin, Pearl Street and Atlin. So I think that we owe something to the history of our, you know, people who came before us in this country and really built British Columbia. So it's a very fascinating time.
And leave it in that, just so that everybody who walks onto it has that sense of discovery that you had as a kid when you walked onto this deserted building.
I want them to look back right into the 1890s, Mike.
Right that second. Excellent, Bill. Thank you very much. Our show today has been all about artifacts and collectibles. They are precious, especially if you happen to have the provenance, the history of them, where they came from, who wore them. I've got to find out who had Special Constable Badge 216. I've got to find that out. And they're treasures. They're all about the history of British Columbia, the Pacific Northwest, and we'll do some more next time on Gold Trails and Ghost Towns.